9:30 Mountain Time. So good morning, afternoon, or evening again, everyone, depending on where you may be. Thank you for holding, and welcome to today's Cloud Services Community Webinar. Our topic for today is Desktops as a Service, Global Market Trends, a Service Provider Perspective. All phones are currently in a listen-only mode, and later there will be a question and answer session with further instructions being given at that time. You may also ask a question at any time using the chat window located in the control panel. Chat questions will be answered at the end of the presentation with the rest of the Q&A portion. Today's session is being recorded, and you'll be provided a copy of today's materials following the call. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker for today's webinar. As Senior Product Marketing Manager, Penny Groleski drives visibility for Citrix Service Providers, Desktops as a Service, Citrix Hosted Solutions, and Citrix Workspace Cloud. She previously managed Citrix AppDNA product marketing. Now, prior to joining Citrix, Penny led global marketing for AppDNA and held positions in product marketing at Flexera Software, analyst relations at Business Objects, public relations at First Logic, data quality software, and marketing communications for Elsevier Automation and Discovery Software. Penny has spoken at many events, including Citrix Summit, as well as webinars with Citrix, Microsoft, Ingram, and other firms. Penny, go ahead and take it away.
Great. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And in my varied career in technology marketing, it's been interesting to see how hot markets are growing. And definitely one of the fastest growing markets that we see is Desktops as a Service. So thank you for joining us today to learn more about what we are hearing about the Desktops as a Service market and some of the trends that we're hearing from service providers. I know that we have quite a group today at varying levels. We'll aim to address both business and technical data. And if you are a current Citrix Service Provider partner, you may have seen some of this information at our Citrix Partner Summit, in our newsletter, or in our blogs. We're quite active in sharing the data. But feel free to ask questions along the way. We will be answering Q&A in the chat. And we'll also be sharing some new information that you may not have seen. Now, this information is coming from a survey that we did deliver in June of 2014, and we have another survey planned for this June. But first, let's start with a poll question to get your feeling on what's happening with the market. We're always interested in how things are progressing. So if we can put up the poll, we'd like to find out what your thoughts are about the growth of the Desktops as a Service market. We had heard a lot of people in the media say that 2014 was the year of DaaS. We wondered if 2014 was the year of DaaS. Is 2015 the year that DaaS will see the most growth? Where is that growth going to be? So looking for your information in this poll.
We got the poll up, so if everyone wants to go ahead and vote, we'll leave it open for a few more seconds here. All right, so let's share these results. All right. Looks like about 26% of the audience thinks their market growth is going to be about 1 to 15%. 44% is predicting 16 to 25% growth. 22% think it's going to be 26 to 50%. 7% are in the 51 to 75% camp, and nobody thinks 76 to 100% growth.
Well, let's close those poll results. Thank you for voting, and let's get into the data to see how that compares with the broader global perspective that we saw in the recent survey. So it's interesting that a lot of you are responding in largely that mid category, 16 to 50% growth. And let me explain the premise behind the survey that we did and see how the results align. So our poll was conducted with all of the Citrix Service Provider partners around the world, and while we have thousands of Citrix Service Providers, we had over 700 responses. We had a short window for the survey and aimed to get responses from all corners of the globe. We were successful in seeing responses from 25 countries. If you're interested in a global breakdown, I can share some of that data today, some of the markets that we see really growing, but also we could give you more information in the one-to-one conversation. So our results are very interesting. We are seeing 87% of providers overall anticipating DaaS revenue growth. And when it breaks out, it's very similar to the results that we saw in the poll here today. 34% of the service providers that voted in our survey also saw growth between that 16 and 50%. So really, your results are falling in that same window. So does that mean that this is the year of DaaS? Stay tuned. I think that we'll see a lot of market growth. We're seeing a lot of people very interested in the desktops as a service market. We're seeing a lot of SMBs very interested in adopting a new way to deliver apps and desktops to their users. And definitely, we see that there's a lot of growth happening right now. And when we do this poll again in June of 2015 and then again in 2016, we'll be interested to see how those numbers change as more and more partners get involved in the market. There's a lot of stickiness to this market. Throughout the presentation today, we'll be sharing some quotes from our actual Citrix service providers about their experience. And this is a great quote from a partner that's focused on accounting. They have a great accounting vertical. While they're based in Baltimore, Maryland on the east coast of the U.S., they work with customers all throughout America, from Alaska back to Florida. And one of the things that they find is the stickiness. Once a client sees desktops as a service, they really don't want to go back. And they also find convenience in the pay-as-you-go model. The monthly subscription gives them a predictable cost for a small business to handle. So really, there's a lot of potential for DaaS adoption to grow as customers get into it and don't really want to leave. So I skipped a slide there. Apologies. And giving a view from Europe, we have a partner in Belgium who is really seeing a lot of growth. They are adding new partners and new customers every week, new resellers and new customers. So they are seeing a lot of growth, and it really depends on your region and your market and also who you're focusing on. So we'll get into a little bit more data about that very soon. But first, let's put up one other quick poll. We want to find out a little bit more of what you're seeing. So let's go to our second poll. So we're looking for more information about what kind of growth you might predict is happening or what you're seeing in your local market. We'll leave that poll open a few more seconds. How are we doing on poll voting?
I think we're just about there. Give it a few more seconds here.
Great.
All right, let's share those results. So it looks like 57% are already selling desktops as a service. 17% are planning on selling it in the next 0 to 3 months. 7% are in the next 3 to 6 months. And then two segments of 10% are in the next 6 to 9 months or later than 12 months.
Great. And this means that a lot of you are really seeing the recognition of the potential in this market. So one of the things that we're seeing across the board is this adoption of broader technologies. Really, when you're delivering to an SMB, they are running their business on custom applications that they might need. They need productivity apps like Microsoft Office, and they also might need something very special to their industry. So we are seeing definite adoption of the complete desktops as a service. And we also are seeing a lot of adoption in file sharing, making sure that they can solve the Dropbox problem, giving secure access to data, not letting client data go out on a public file sharing site, keeping it in a private file sharing site. And then also managing this proliferation of mobile devices. People want to work on their tablets, on their smartphone, on their MacBook Air that they bring from home. So managing all those devices is a challenge. When we asked Citrix service providers what they're looking to add to grow their business in the next 12 months, their answers were kind of similar to what we saw here. A lot of you are already providing complete desktops as a service, and that's fantastic. We also see this tremendous growth in the interest of sharing files securely, and then also hosting mobility management. So those are areas that we definitely see people looking into, and let's share a little bit more data about that. Mobility is huge. IT is a challenge for small businesses. And anywhere from a very small business to a mid-sized hospital, a accounting firm, a manufacturer, they really want to focus on their business, not focus on IT. So mobility is big, and really outsourcing that to a service provider who is the expert is the way to go. So we talk a lot about small business being the focus, and that's because our poll results are showing that Citrix service providers are really focusing on organizations that are smaller than 100 end users. And they're also, smaller than 50 end users or smaller than 100 end users. So these are small businesses. And in fact, if you look at the research across the board from analyst firms, from Microsoft, from a lot of other vendors, you'll see that small business is really, really adopting desktops as a service. And we say small business, it may be a very small shop, but we're also just seeing people who are right at this 100 end user range getting into the idea of mobility and focusing on hosted solutions. We're looking for the same ways to run more efficiently that an enterprise would have. So really, this shows that there's a lot of potential in the market and a lot of clients to go secure. One of our Citrix service providers also has talked about specializing in a vertical. So a lot of the buyers could be segmented by verticals, and we're seeing a lot of success from service providers who are looking at vertical markets. And this service provider is talking about hosting desktops in the healthcare space, and that number is growing. They're working directly with ISVs to host desktops for smaller healthcare organizations. And really focusing on a vertical helps you to be an expert in that area. And here's another example from a finance focus. So an accounting practice really wants to focus on what they're doing as accountants. They don't want to be experts in IT and also be experts in accounting. So a lot of the feedback that we hear from the end user customers of our service providers is that it helps their clients to focus on their business when they can outsource their hosted desktops to a service provider. So let's look at what verticals are really growing. So it's very interesting because we conduct this poll quite regularly, and we see a lot of similarity in the verticals that were successful several years ago, and also the verticals where we see virtualization adoption across the board. When you look at the statistics from all of the industry analyst firms about who's adopting virtualization, we definitely see large trends in verticals like financial services, healthcare, education, and government. And this is very similar in the service provider world. However, because a lot of the businesses that focus on very specialized industries like construction, architecture, engineering are usually smaller businesses, we're seeing growth in some of those markets from a service provider's perspective. So we have seen year-over-year growth in construction and architecture and engineering focus, as well as the retail focus. But definitely, dominance in financial service and healthcare shows there's a lot of potential in the market. And this is one of the quotes that really stands out for us. When you are an expert in a vertical approach to hosted desktop, you can walk into clients and explain in their terms how it will help their medical practice or their accounting firm. It doesn't help to go in and talk about speeds and fees like this quote explains. It really helps to go in and talk about how outsourcing all of the access to a service provider can really help align with compliance and regulations and things that are really top of mind for a medical practice, rather than how quickly should I be able to deliver my desktops to my end users. So we've talked a lot about the vertical market and wanted to share a few examples of what this looks like. So essentially, it looks like a regular desktop. However, these are very specialized applications that are used in different industries. We see at the top here in engineering and construction, a very detailed 3D design application. We see a very detailed patent legal application where the patent lawyers need to look at the molecular structure of this invention to determine that this product has not been created somewhere else. And we're looking at hosted CPA and accounting software, which needs to have a lot of security behind it. Same for clinical healthcare. Healthcare applications need to be extremely secure and delivered on flexible devices to really manage patient care very well. And then we love seeing examples of 3D applications. Citrix really excels in supporting high-definition graphics and applications like CAD that require a lot of horsepower to really run and also display beautifully. And we're excited to see examples like this to see how desktops as a service can be used in the market and what the visuals look like for the end user. Because at the end of the day, we're really after a delightful end user experience. And one of the things that's nice is what we've been talking about. When you focus on just a vertical, you really understand those detailed applications. You understand the complexity behind a specific 3D design application and how to best deliver it. And once you have solidified delivering it to one customer, you can replicate that and find other construction firms and other architecture firms that might use that same application and really kind of expand your customer base by being an expert in one specific application. So we've talked a lot about the business side. Let's focus a little bit on the technical side. We did ask a lot of technical questions. We are a software technology firm. So one of the things that was interesting to us is to see the diversity in hypervisors. You know, Citrix is known for our any policy. We really try to support any device, any infrastructure, any cloud, and also any hypervisor. So we'll follow these numbers closely from year to year to see how our respondents are adopting different technologies. Currently, we see a lot of people using VMware Hypervisor. However, we're seeing growth in this area, and we'll continue to track and manage, you know, what are the technologies that are important to service providers. You know, and also, we mentioned any cloud. So with Citrix, you can deliver hosted desktops using a private cloud, a public cloud, on-premises infrastructure, an outsourced or co-located data center. There's a lot of different options for you. So it's interesting for us to see these results showing what people anticipate on the top bar today for how they are hosting their hosted desktops, and then what they anticipate in the future. And it's very interesting to us to see that growth in public cloud. Today, 20% of our respondents were using public cloud, but almost doubling that to 39% anticipated growth in cloud adoption. So we'll continue to watch these trends and share them with you, but definitely we see a lot of people doing data center and a lot of people looking into cloud. And you know, sometimes our service providers say that it depends on the customer preference. Of course, there are organizations that have a lot of compliance issues and would like things to be on a private cloud. A lot of organizations see the opportunity with public cloud and are willing to give that a try, especially if there are cost implications. So sometimes it depends on what your customers are looking for. Sometimes it depends on your local preferences. But the great thing about working with hosted desktops from Citrix is that we let you choose what's the best for you and your business. So let's take a couple conclusions. So for service providers, it's really interesting to look at this opportunity and figure out how it can expand your current managed service provider business. So definitely we see desktops as a service has become a global market. I don't think there's a corner of the globe where we don't hear interest. We are constantly hearing from service providers and from end users who are very interested in moving to desktops as a service. You know, definitely, you know, we anticipate some growth in the market. We have seen the market growing, and you know, as your poll results have shown today, and as our survey has shown, there's definitely room to grow in this market and anticipated growth. There's definitely a trend towards higher value services. You know, one of the things that we saw in the quote was the service provider that focuses on medical practices never charges less than $100 US dollars per desktop. And it's an interesting premise. We are asked quite a bit, how much can I charge for a desktop? And we don't suggest pricing, but what we give as a guideline is to think about the complexity of the applications that you're hosting, the compliance aspects, the security aspects, what kinds of things you're putting into that. And really, if you're focusing on a more difficult application or a more complex environment, or if you're a vertical expert, there is that potential to charge a slightly higher price. So you're delivering higher value services, not just with a vertical approach, but also with what's inside your hosted offering. Does it include file sharing? Does it include mobile device management? What are the opportunities to really expand what you're giving to customers today? And for MSPs that are doing traditional disaster recovery, hosted exchange, this is a potential to really provide more service to your customers than what you were doing in the past. You know, we definitely see that the vertical market appeal is there. If you can put together a business-ready vertical offering, there's a lot of potential to really go into professional organizations or associations and become the expert in your accounting association world or your specific healthcare application world. So there's a lot of potential for really focusing on a vertical and being successful. You know, and again, the importance of infrastructure, as we showed in the technical slide there, you know, any infrastructure, any hypervisor, any cloud, the importance of anyness. Citrix really gives you flexibility to do what works best for your business, and that's something that is also really important to your customer. You can service the most customers successfully if you can make the right choices for them and for your business. So we also invite you to use this report with your teams to really determine your business. Have a conversation. How do you see your market growing? Talk with your partners and your executives in your organization and determine what are they seeing for market trends? What are the things coming out of your sales organization? Do they align with the statistics that we talked about today? How do you see the DaaS market growing? Where do you want to really capitalize? Are you seeing a lot of requests for mobile device management? Are you seeing a lot of people complaining about the Dropbox problem? How can you develop higher value services based on what you're hearing from the customers and the information that you've seen today? What is your vertical market appeal? If you're trying to be everything for everyone, it's really hard to keep up with all of the changes in many different verticals and many different markets. And also think about your current technology. Are these solutions you're using today allowing you the choice and flexibility to really give the right support to your customers? And feel free to use this report with your end users also. If you're trying to convince a client to move to desktops as a service, show them the trends. The DaaS market is growing. This is the time to take advantage of it. The DaaS market is stable. The adoption is really tremendous. A lot of people are choosing the solution and sticking with it. Service providers can provide a complete package. If you've only been doing disaster recovery, now is the time to expand that conversation. A vertical specialization means you're the expert. Become really the expert in compliance and security around a specific vertical and the applications in that vertical, and you can really be the go-to partner for your customers. And then also, you know, convince your customer that they don't need to go learn about a public cloud offering. You can be the expert in that for them. So just a short background about Citrix and the Citrix Service Provider Program. You know, one of the things that is important is that opportunity to really expand your offering. And expanding your offering increases your average retail price per user. So it's not just delivering a hosted application. It's really providing desktops on any device, whether it's a MacBook or a traditional PC or something else. The apps can be accessed on any device. So whether they want to have the most recent Surface tablet or the new iPad or whatever version comes out, there is choice to access applications on what works best for them. And then there's also that security, the mobile device management. Should they lose that new Surface in a taxi cab, there's the potential for a service provider to, in one phone call, you know, wipe that device clean, even remotely, not knowing what taxi cab it's in. File sharing is very important these days, and also with the compliance issues and security issues, it's important to know kind of what is an acceptable term of sharing a file in a private environment, and also what's a challenge. And the great thing about service providers is that you can provide this app store aggregation. It's not going to find an application here and something else there. Everything that an end user would need from a business perspective is located in one app store. And Citrix provides all of this for the service provider in one package. It's not just licenses for technology. Citrix is a technology company, but we'd like to be a business partner for service providers. So it is licensing, and the licensing for Citrix-hosted products aligns with Microsoft SWA licensing. You pay on a monthly basis. You pay for what you use. There are no upfront fees. So it's very easy to get started with Citrix. We give you a complete reference architecture, an ideal way to install and deploy for optimal success and for scaling. There's a lot of technology that we provide outside of just the desktops as a service licenses. Citrix has Cloud Portal Services Manager, which lets you create really a self-service portal. One of my favorite quotes about Cloud Portal Services Manager is from a customer that's in one of our case studies. They have worked with their service provider to develop this self-service portal, and actually when they need to add a new employee to their hosted desktop setup, the person that manages it is an administrative assistant. It's a self-service portal. She just has to put in their name and what kinds of applications they should be able to get to, whether they're sales or finance. And actually, when she's on vacation, this self-service portal is so easy, the receptionist is the person that actually enables new desktops. So it is something that we try to make it as friendly as possible for end users to get started and also use all of the applications that service providers are delivering. And there's also a lot of behind-the-scenes technology for service providers to really implement and move forward. And then also, Citrix wants to be your business partner, so there's a lot of expertise and also business technology, business enabling services. There's a complete Citrix Service Provider Center of Excellence that gives you the technical information, the partner information, the business information, the marketing information, and also the business planning information that you will need to successfully grow your business. There are a lot of resources, including marketing campaign sources and programs. There's a lot of sales enablement training, a lot of insight from industry analysts, and really a community of thousands of Citrix service providers worldwide sharing their tips and tricks, their successes, and their questions to really make it an engaged community. So, we encourage all of our current partners to check out Center of Excellence, and also for anyone who's interested in joining the program, we can give you a walkthrough of the kinds of information that you would be able to receive with Citrix. So I mentioned our very broad community. We have two ways for you to really stay engaged with Citrix. One is the Twitter account at Citrix CSP, and one is the LinkedIn community. And here we're close to 6,000 people engaged in the Citrix Service Provider community now. So we look forward to communicating and sharing information and answering questions on these venues. Also, you can feel free to communicate with us via the Cloud Services community. And actually, you can download this full report. We'll make it available on the community as well as on Citrix.com. Great. So that ends the content that I had prepared for today. However, I realize we have several questions on the line. So happy to get started with questions.
Yes, thank you, Penny. We will now open up for questions. So if you would like to ask a question and haven't already, please raise your hand using the raise hand button located in the GoToWebinar control panel. If at any time your question has been answered, please lower your hand to remove yourself from the question queue. If you prefer to ask a question via the chat box, you may do that using the chat window located in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. So we got a few questions that have come in already. Penny, how much can I charge for hosted desktops? That's the first question.
That's a very popular question, actually. There's commodity desktops, and then there are specialized desktops. So, people hear in the market about how little it could cost to get into a hosted desktop or a cloud-based desktop. And really what we want our service providers to think about is not how little you could charge, but what is the price point that works best for your market. If you are really looking to accept any client that comes in the door and provide them the lowest potential price point of his desktop, that was going to be a tough business to manage and maintain. If you specialize in a vertical and you become an expert on an application and you understand what other types of data and user and infrastructure concerns that vertical market has, you can really become the expert and charge a premium price. And that premium price is anywhere, we saw the quote that said we never charge less than $100 per desktop. So, there's potential to really grow. We have seen information from service providers about charging $300 for a very difficult application, a very difficult desktop to manage in a very specialized industry. So there's a lot of price points, and there's a lot of potential, and some of it really depends on how much you'd like to specialize. We're always interested in feedback from service providers, what they're charging, And also, we have more research underway to really share some of that data in the market. So great question.
Excellent. Another question, who are the ideal target customers for hosted desktops? Are they my current managed service customers?
Well, definitely your current customer base is going to be an easy conversation. If you're already doing a great job with their backup and their disaster recovery and really working with them on a consultative basis, this is a great way to bring in your role as a partner, as a business partner for them, looking out for their future. And talking to them about the needs that they have. Are their employees bringing in mobile devices not supported by the organization? Are they looking at a bring your own device policy? What are the ways that they can ensure that their critical business data is not being left on an iPhone in a taxi cab? How could they really look at mobile device management? And how could they outsource that to you as a service provider and really get into it very easily on a monthly subscription basis? So your ideal customers may be your current managed service providers. It may be your managed service provider customers. It may be people in your local area if you're really interested in focusing on your city or your region. Or it may be a vertical that is widespread across regions, as we talked about the accounting-focused service provider that is based on the East Coast of the U.S. but works with customers all across the United States. So there's a lot of potential for who is your ideal customer. And actually, on the Citrix Service Provider Center of Excellence, we have some business planning resources that actually are worksheets that help you go through some exercises to really determine who your ideal customer might be.
Great. I think some people were looking for some clarification in there too. Penny, was that $100 per month per user?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. What industry partners are Citrix working with for desktops as a service?
So actually, there's a long history of Citrix and Microsoft working together. You'll see a lot about Citrix and Microsoft because it is a requirement to be a Microsoft SPLA partner to be a Citrix service provider. We align with the SPLA licensing, and so you see a lot between Citrix and Microsoft. You're also starting to see more and more between Citrix and Cisco. Cisco is really focusing on the service provider market. We're seeing a lot of success from service providers who are growing in UCS. We see a lot of growth in UCS. And we just recently put some videos on our Citrix Service Provider YouTube channel about how service providers are using Cisco UCS. But actually, Citrix works with thousands of ISVs who are Citrix-ready partners. So you'll see on Citrix.com a wide range of alliance partners.
Excellent. Another question, how does service provider licensing work?
Great question. So there are a lot of details on citrix.com/CSP. We have an FAQ that explains a lot of questions about the program, and one of them is normally licensing. So with Citrix, there are no upfront fees to join the Citrix Service Provider Program, and there's no minimum commitments to get into providing licenses. You pay for what you use or what you have subscribed to use each month. So really, it's a pay-as-you-go for your customers and also pay-as-you-go for the service provider. Really, pricing conversations are best had with your local distributor, and you can find a full list of Citrix Service Provider distributors on citrix.com/CSP.
Great. Still getting some more questions seeded through here. Are there any restrictions or best practices in place which would restrict different customers using virtual machines in the same physical host?
That's a great question. That's one that I'm not going to go into this morning. I think that's one that we'd be happy to take offline.
Perfect.
So we try to have some technical webinars as well. And one of our most popular webinars is Technical Office Hours. We try to set up a few times a year access to our technical experts to really dive into those questions. I wanted to go back and clarify. So the question about is that priced for the hosted healthcare desktop $100 per user per month? And it is. And one of the things that we hear from the end users, we do a lot of case studies with the end users of our service providers' post-to-desktop and apps. And one of the things that the customers say is, it's not cheap, but when I think about how much time I'm spending as a business development director or a CFO, running around doing updates on machines or trying to figure out what I should do with a server upgrade or trying to figure out if our server is living okay in the coat closet. They know that the price per user per month is not inexpensive by any means, but when they look at what they can do with their time more productively, they're comfortable with that cost because they're getting their job back. They're getting their focus back on what they mean to be doing. And really, a lot of organizations where IT is kind of a side job that someone else does, the CFO, business development director. We've seen the person who's in charge of real estate is also the person that happened to be in charge of IT. They're opening new store locations, but they also were in charge of IT. These people are happy to move desktops as a service to a hosted service provider instead of worrying about a server or an upgrade or what happens if we lose power in our building and all of our information is lost. We can't work. So they're really happy to move to this option. And while it's not necessarily inexpensive, they look at the overall business value.
Great. A few more questions that have come in, Penny. When can we expect the CPSM to have the up-to-date app integration for at least for most popular apps?
Again, I can't comment on any roadmap. So great question about Cloud Portal Services Manager. However, our Citrix policy is not to comment on roadmap. I think that that would be a great question for our team to follow up with the answer. If we can jot down who asked that question, we can follow up on a further discussion. However, I can't publicly comment on roadmap.
Okay. Do you see more use of hybrid clouds with DaaS or migrating the entire data center with DaaS?
I think that we are seeing growth in cloud adoption. And we are really interested in seeing the results of our survey that's going to come out in June, because we are hearing from industry analysts a lot about the adoption of the cloud. And we're also hearing a lot of questions from our service providers about cloud adoption. So the chart that we were looking at where our service providers predicted that 39% will be focused on or working with cloud by this time, by June of 2015, we're very interested in verifying that because we definitely do hear a lot about the cloud. And it's important that there's the potential for that any choice. Whether people want to work on premises or in a cloud environment, there's the potential for both.
Excellent. In Microsoft SPLA, we have a nonprofit in education. We have nonprofit and education prices. We don't have these prices from Citrix. Do you intend to have a different price for these customers?
So currently in the Citrix Service Provider Program, I don't believe there's education pricing. However, that's a great question, and I'll make sure that our service provider team does look at that question. It's always important to bring these questions up so that as we work on pricing and what works best for our service providers, that we can consider these options. So great question.
Excellent. Do you see more published shared desktops versus dedicated desktops?
There's some research coming out of our Zen-Desktop group on that. I don't have that information in front of me, but I know that there is some ongoing research. So I guess the answer is stay tuned.
All right. Well, it looks like we also have a lot of technical questions that have been coming in, and kind of as Penny said, we will work with a follow-up and get the technical squad to answer some of those for everybody else. But that's been the most of the questions at this point, so we want to wait a second, see if anything else comes through. Kind of a last call here. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for your questions, and thank you, Penny, for your time and your presentation. That was excellent.
Well, great, and thanks everyone for the time. And definitely, some of these questions also are excellent to put on the Citrix Service Provider LinkedIn group. Our program team, of course, is looking at that, and that's also where you can hear feedback from other service providers around the globe. We hear from ones that are early in adoption, but also ones that have been working with Citrix technologies for a long time and are working with many different versions of our technology. So a lot of these questions are really great ones to show on the LinkedIn group. It'd be a great place to share and discuss some of the things that you're seeing in market as well.
Excellent. And we will also put the questions and answers that we did go through on the webinar today up on the Cloud Services Community and the Desktops as a Service Global Market Trends chat forum. So we'll be able to answer any additional questions that might arise from there as well. But at this point, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. We appreciate all your time, and please do take a few moments to fill out your post-event survey. Your input is very important to us, and we take that to apply to our future webinars and events. But this concludes today's conference, and you may now disconnect.